Okay, god damn. Another cutout. I really apologize for that, so I don't know if I talk to him again whether it'll repeat the same dialogue. Let's try that.
Across the valley to the east of Yarnum, you'll find the cathedral ward. Deep within lies the old main cathedral, said to be the source of blood. I haven't heard of pale blood, but that's your best bet if it's anything to do with unique types of blood.
You know, these videos may not even get views, so I honestly shouldn't be worried about dialogue cutting out, because you guys probably don't even want to hear the dialogue. You have probably heard it in so many playthroughs and so many lore videos and in your own playthroughs. You know, not that what I'm saying is interesting, but you'd probably want to hear the new stuff I'm saying rather than dialogue you've already heard. Not to say I won't play it, just maybe I shouldn't worry as much. So, yeah, so we ask Gilbert where we can find pale blood, and like many people have noted, this is the first what the F moment in the game, because he doesn't know anything about it, and nor does the blood minister, but yet we have a note in the very clinic that says seek pale blood. So, you know, in a Souls game, usually it's you create a character and they have no history whatsoever, except for maybe, say, the possible quote-unquote marriage thing in Dark Souls 2, where it implies you had a family in the intro, which is weird if you pick a female character. Not sure how that works, but because unless they're saying you adopted a kid, which that's definitely cool with me. I'm just wondering what they're trying to imply there. So basically the thing is yeah, the player seems to have knowledge, like prior knowledge, like they have a history, which is new to Bloodborne. I gotta stop standing around when I talk about the lore. This playthrough is gonna be way longer than it needs to frickin' be. So let's pick up an item here, and I'm just gonna note, although I really enjoy doing this, this is going to be my last part that I record and upload today, because I'm actually surprised how somewhat draining it is to do a playthrough, and I don't mean like physically draining, I just mean like it's weird. It's almost like, and artists may know what I'm talking about, you draw a picture, and then after you draw a picture, you may not want to draw another one immediately because you feel like your effort will be lower, and I definitely want this playthrough to be full of effort, so I'm not going to mess that up. And I know this plunging attack is not going to reach him, but I'm going to attempt it anyways. Every time. Yeah, get in the fire. By the way, that's a trick in this area, if you guys hadn't noticed that. Obviously throwing the Molotov cocktails will help, but a lot of the hunters just sit around, so I'm going to do something really risky and try to skip this entire combat section. Not because I couldn't fight them, but because, again, this is a lore playthrough and I don't want to grind it all. And if you can survive combat encounters to an extent, then you can just use the bosses to level up. That doesn't mean I'm going to skip every enemy in the playthrough. That just means that I'm going to make good use of my environment and not fight things that I don't have to fight. Although this may be my first death in the playthrough that counts, because I will challenge the axe guy. And I'm purely gonna do that because if he drops a blood gem or blood vials, that would be great. So let's try to... Oh boy, I need to learn that I'm not a tank yet, and can't be taking hits like that. Alright, so... Oh boy, I should say at this point, my skill with this game is not advanced. It's, average, or maybe even below. I don't know whether that's me being critical or saying what it is. Okay, good. Backstab, maybe? Wow, it didn't even get a chance. See, so the axe is more powerful than people give credit for, and here we go, our first blood gem. Tempting blood gem, and let's read the description of that, because although I don't want to show combat, I don't mind reading item descriptions. I actually think that would be a fun thing to do, because I find that most lore Let's players, they'll read item descriptions, but then it will get to the point where they're picking up items every 5 seconds, so they stop reading the descriptions. But I'm going to try and read them all the way through because I think that they can provide very good descriptions. So, Tempering Blood Gemstone 1. A blood gem that fortifies weapons and adds various properties. Blood gems are especially rare bloodstones that grow on cold blood. I know they probably mean this from a lore perspective, but I find it kind of amusing that they talk about that blood gemstones are rare when they say that they make it out to be that they're the rarest of bloodstones, yet it's harder to get a blood shard than it is to get a gemstone. If you guys get where I'm going with this. So, anyways, blood gems are needed into weapons using workshop tools, but only when of a matching shape. Most radial blood gems have effects that bear upon physical attack. Now, not only is it interesting that in this, and it is somewhat of a fantasy world, so I'm not going to try and logically explain all this, but even within fantasy, terms, blood hardening into these stones at doing the opposite of coagulating, if I am saying that word right, and then them infusing its properties into the weapons not only makes sense if they use the blood for healing, that they could find other properties to use it, but it's kind of interesting that it can be used with weapons. But we will talk about blood gems much more in depth when we do Chalice Dungeons. I think when we focus on things like blood gems and ruins and all the heavy item descriptions, I think we're going to do that during Chalice Dungeon runs. Okay, is there anything else in our items that we want to read? How about this one? Molotov cocktail explodes in raging flames, has thrown against an object. One of the oldest hunter tools available in the workshop since the tragedy that struck Old Yarnum. Fire has become a staple in beast hunts and is thought to cleanse impurity. Certain types of beasts have an abnormal fear of the flame. It's funny how they talk about the beast's fear of the flame. And we mostly actually see that not only in Old Yarnum, but in the DLC, which, again, not to spoil the DLC here, but this kind of relates. You wonder, were the beasts originally afraid of fire, or was it like memory association? Because I know of certain studies where, whether it be animals or people, were trained to have triggers, and if these are humans turning into quote-unquote feral beasts, at least some of them, is it their beast instinct going, fire equals death, so avoid fire? It's almost like, because, some beasts and some enemies use fire, so it's weird how some of them use it, some don't use it. As others have said, the relationship between fire and beasts is interesting. So perhaps it's some beasts and enemies like Plymithrians can use fire, but maybe it's that certain beasts are afraid of fire because of what the old hunters did. Maybe they were hunted for so many generations. It's almost instinctual to fear fire. Just as a human will fear a lion, maybe, because of what our ancestors went through with lions and cat-like animals in the Ice Age period. But that's just an extended analytical thought there. Pebble, a small pebble found throughout Yarnum, can be thrown at foes quite thrilling. Yeah, why I'm talking about such a basic item, I think you guys already know. The fact it looks like an eyeball, and the fact that the Witches of Hemwick drop them, which we'll get to those witches later, but yeah. So a very key item, the Bold Hunter's Mark. Dangling upside down rune etched in one's mind, symbol of a hunter. By focusing one's thoughts on this rune, a hunter loses all blood echoes but awakens afresh as if we're all just a bad dream. Again, another thing that could make some people say, dude, this totally tells you it's all a dream, and some would say, nope, and I'm one of the nopes. Or I'm in between it, I don't know. But, I've heard, again, not to steal every point from other YouTubers, but I do want to note this because I found it interesting. As we know, the hunter ruins their words uttered by the Great Ones, which we'll talk about later, or something to that extent, and it's in their mind. So when they see the mark, and I'm going to quote Redgrave again here, it's like it's being branded into your mind, saying, Hunter, you are a hunter, and you just see that image and it just etches into your brain, as the description saying. And yeah, if I'm going to use that quote, I might as well feel like I owe it to the guy. So yeah, once again, check out Redgrave's channel. So, Hunter Axe, one of the trick weapons in the workshop commonly used on the hunt. Retains qualities of an axe, but often a wider... you know what I'm... Yeah, so the weapons... Some of these descriptions I'm just going to skim, actually, but this one, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to skim some descriptions, and you guys can pause the video and read it if you want to, and I'll comment on the description, because some of these I memorized. So, speaking of executioners like the enemy we just fought, you wonder, is their weapon just a more prehistoric version of the Hunter Axe? And I would have been able to prove that if one of the DLC weapons was directly their axe, and we did get the other weapons that look that way, but they weren't exactly an older version of the Hunter Axe. Hood worn upon walking to the nightmare of blood and beast. So right there it tells us that this world is somewhat of a nightmare. So again, more evidence that it's a dream, and I think a lot of these early item descriptions really imply that you were in a dream, but I think it's not, I'm not saying it's like Inception, but I'm saying it's more dreamscape than it is dream, if you get what I mean. So perhaps the wearer had to stay out of sight and travel by the cover of darkness without memory. Who will ever know? Well, the room did look pretty dark, and maybe it wasn't just because we were inside. Maybe we did sneak into Yharnam. Maybe, because I don't think anyone's ever suggested this, maybe the church is so secretive about blood healing. Maybe there's a checking system, like they won't let certain people into Yharnam, and maybe because of what we were doing in Yharnam that may not be approved of, we had to sneak in. Because otherwise, why would they want their quote-unquote blood-ministered customers to... I mean, blood ministration customers to sneak in. Okay, enough item description reading for now. So, I'm definitely not going to challenge the cleric beast, because this could end in any moment, and I'm bad at keeping track of time. So what I'm going to try and do is run to the next shortcut while I talk about lore. Oh boy. So we see the hunters burning a beast here, and just the brutality of the hunting towards beast only comes into effect later when we talk about Jura, and I'm not going to spoil what Jura says, but for those of you who know who Jura is and you know what I'm talking about, yeah, we're going to have very specific talks about that subject. So am I being followed? No, I'm not. Maybe before this video ends we can get in dialogue without it being cut out.
I don't reckon you're from round here. Well, stuck outside on a night of the hunt. How you poor. I don't reckon you're from...
Okay, same dialogue. So, as we've noted, yes, Yharnamites. Not the friendliest bunch out there, are they? Not really. So I do know the Easter egg in this little corner where the amygdala sometimes appears or something. I'm not going to activate that because I do not want to deal with it. I better not die to this guy. Like, I don't want to waste footage on deaths. Alright. Okay, so, we get the hunter torch here, and, let me equip it. I'm not going to read it, though. Oh, I'm tired. It's, not late where I am, but, as I said, something about playthroughs, not used to it. Honestly, I think my first reaction to making a playthrough is now, after understanding the appreciation of how hard it is to play and talk at the same time, at least for me, which is weird because usually I'm a multitasker, I almost want to watch a playthrough out of, thanks for the effort it takes. Especially with something like Aegon of a Store, where he puts so much effort into his playthroughs, it's ridiculous. And I mean that in the best way possible. I always thought this door should have been enterable. Maybe that's just me. So we are almost to the bridge, and I almost don't know why I'm walking there, because I'm obviously not in any state to fight the cleric beast. And you guys may know the answer.